They really tricky. They were picking the bottom of the barrel instead of me.
It's either that or one of the sides.
Davis, I thought you were in France.
Yes.
Yeah. I was one of France, wasn't she?
Oh, that's cool. 75th anniversary, yeah.
Let's see. Come on, gentlemen, in here, AJ. Thank you for joining me out here. I don't know if you saw out the window, but I was able to go down into our Emergency Operations Center and thank all the multiple agencies. Over 16 agencies are participating in the Emergency Operations Center, accumulating data, monitoring requests, and responding as needed. I talked to them about we're in the role of mitigation, and we have advance warning that we have a devastating flood that's here, but the river is going to increase in its crest level over the next few days, and we're in the business of mitigating the damage and loss and saving lives. They're doing an amazing job here at the Operations Center. I want to thank A.J. Gary for his leadership, Director of ADAM. We also have, of course, General Berry, Arkansas National Guard, and Colonel Bryant, the Arkansas State Police, have all been a critical part of our response efforts. We have Lori from RDOT. Where's Lori? Oh, over there. And we have, yes, there's Lori. You popped up there. I didn't see you. Who is obviously a key player in our response efforts as well. We have FEMA that is here as well. Frank Effries, am I saying that right?
Yes, sir.
Right there. All right. Thank you for being here, Frank. I just returned from the Toadsuck area of the lock and dam that is currently underwater and will remain underwater for some time. That blocks the traffic flow from Faulkner County into Perry County. I went along the levee for probably about 5 miles and inspecting the levee in a certain extent, but also seeing the work that is being done to strengthen levees, to monitor the levee structure, because that is what is really the difference between the loss of property and the saving of property is the strength of those levees. And I just want to praise Arkansas for the way everybody has come together to help evacuate homes, to help neighbors move furniture, but also the key thing has been simply putting sand in bags. And that effort along of our levees and around property is being instrumental in saving and protecting the property that's so critical. Today, I wanted to tell you that I signed a second emergency proclamation that raises the state support financial assistance from $100,000 to $350,000. So we added another $250,000 in our state response capability. This is at the request of ADAM so that we can have the resources that's needed in emergency fashion to respond to our counties, our cities, as they see needs develop. Yesterday I received a call from President Trump. He was expressing his concern. I briefed him on the situation in Arkansas and told him how hard we're working to evacuate homes, to strengthen the levees, and he offered his full support, and he assured me that FEMA's on board here, as they are, and that they will be here to assist us as needed. Today, I formalized my communication to President Trump in terms of asking for emergency federal assistance, and I signed a letter today to President Trump requesting federal assistance in the form of direct support from federal agencies. This sets the stage for when we do our damage assessments to asking for a more formalized presidential declaration. But today I've asked him to provide federal assistance from the federal standpoint and to expedite their review and the assistance that they can provide. This will be supplemented day by day and week by week as we go through this challenge that we face in Arkansas. If you look at where we are currently, there's over 12 state highways that are completely closed because of high water, and there's others that have been closed at the county level as well. The National Guard, General Berry, thank you. They have been instrumental in 2 high water rescue teams have been deployed, but also the utilization of your air assets in helping to protect the levee, to deliver sand, and also to get automated equipment from other states under our emergency agreements with other states. We've obtained assets from Missouri and Tennessee, and we'll continue to make those available. The National Guard has been very instrumental in that. In addition to our sandbagging operations, with air and ground support. The satellite imagery from the 188th Wing has been very helpful. The Civil Air Patrol has been engaged. That is unique to us in the sense of our mitigation efforts, and we want to thank them as well. Tomorrow, I'll be conducting an aerial assessment of the flooded areas along the river, both to assess our mitigation work, but also to start doing preliminary assessments and view of the damage that we will see along the river. I am anxious to be in Fort Smith, where I spent 19 years. I've been in regular communication, but I'll be there tomorrow because while this is a concern, a high risk for all of Arkansas along the Arkansas River, the first and most immediate impact is in the Fort Smith and Van Buren area, and they are working very hard to evacuate. They're working very hard to preserve property and to mitigate against the damage that we know is coming. Tomorrow I'll be conducting that aerial assessment. I'll be joined by members of our federal delegation, and that is important as we prepare for a more formal request for a presidential disaster declaration if the assessments are what and the damage is what we expect them to be. I'll make a couple observations that this is a flood of historic magnitude. It surpasses all Arkansas River flooding in our recorded history. That should be enough to get everybody's attention. And it was expressed to me by one of my team members today as we looked at the Arkansas River. It's a beautiful sight until it comes to get you. And that's really a pretty good warning about the seriousness of what we face as a state. The levee system that was built by the Army Corps of Engineers was not built for the level of flooding that we expect under the modeling that we've seen. And so there is a lot of unknowns in what we face as a state. The levee system is strained to the limit, and while it is holding in most areas, there are breaches and overflows that we're watching very carefully. I want to encourage everyone in the public. The public, first of all, needs to heed the admonishment of the emergency managers, the police, and law enforcement. If they say there's a need to evacuate, you need to evacuate. Don't be stubborn. Say this is something that's needed and evacuate whenever the request is there. We've had over 400 homes evacuated since we started this. This is a voluntary evacuation, and most people have been very cooperative and understand the need and listen to law enforcement. Secondly, don't go around barriers. There's a reason for those barriers, and don't go around the barriers. Listen to law enforcement. Don't try to get close to the water's edge. It is dangerous. Stay away from the river. And then I would encourage everyone to pay attention to developments. We don't know everything today. We will know more tomorrow. We'll know more the next day as the river continues to crest down toward Little Rock. And so we will have to monitor it. And so we don't know what all the flooded areas will be, what population centers will be at risk, what farmland will be at risk. We know more each day as we get more information. And finally, adjust your prayer list that we want good weather come ahead. If rain is on your prayer list, you can take rain off for a while. And that is important, that we as a state support our neighbors, we engage in prayer, and recognize that we are looking at nature and its power, and it can be very devastating. And so we have to take this very seriously. And so with that, I'd like to ask Director Gary to make comments, followed by General Berry.
Thank you, Governor. I really want to take just a few minutes and express our appreciation and how amazed I am at all the cooperation with all the counties throughout the state. We started coordination calls last week where all of the counties joined in, also our state agencies, so that we could work through and discuss what future needs would be and what they were needing at that time. So again, we started those last week to help prepare for this event. We have got all of our emergency support function leads are in the inside the EOC. I have also been told that this is the first time ever that we have had all of our emergency support function leads inside the EOC. I think that says a lot. One, it says how well all of our agencies coordinate and work together in this state. And two, it really shows the magnitude of this event that we're dealing with. As the governor said, this is a record-setting event. It will continue for a while. We plan on having the Emergency Operations Center activated, fully activated for the next 2 weeks anyway. So that's going to be a long event. We have a lot of our levees that are going to be under extreme pressure for a long period of time. And as the governor stated, there's a lot of unknowns. We don't know if those levees will hold. And we really want to stress that people in those communities communicate with their local emergency management in their county, pay attention to what's going on, and if they're anywhere near the river, they need to get away from it. And I want to also express my appreciation to the Adams staff, to the state agencies. Again, they've been here for the last 4 days. Many of them canceled their holiday weekend events to be down here, and we're very much appreciative of that. Also want to thank the governor. Everything that we have asked for, he has promptly approved, and that's been very helpful to allow us to get those resources out to the counties as needed. So we'll continue to have those calls and coordination. Also, again, want to thank our FEMA, our federal agencies that are here. FEMA, the Corps of Engineers is here. National Weather Service has been instrumental through all of this preparation for the event.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Governor.
Well, I stand here before you today to tell you how proud I am of the Arkansas National Guard and our soldiers and airmen that are providing for the safety and security of the citizens of this great state. But equally, I'm proud of the citizens of Arkansas and the neighbors helping neighbors, because the National Guard can't do everything. There's a lot of hard work out there, and the worst is yet to come, I'm afraid. But we'll continue to monitor the situation, working with Director Gary and the staff. And again, I echo A.J. Gary's comments about the support that I get as the leader of the National Guard in the state of Arkansas from the governor's office and his staff. We could not do what we're doing in providing for the safety and security of our citizens if it wasn't for the tremendous support that we get from all the agencies, to include FEMA, A.J. Gary and the Arkansas Department of Emergency Management, our local law enforcement agencies. And I will tell you, to piggyback on what the governor says about following local policies that the law enforcement officials have put out there, we've already lost one citizen because of not abiding by barrier rules, and we don't want to see any more of that. It's in the best interest of our individuals and their families. So again, I appreciate the governor's support, and Director Gary, thank you for everything that you're doing for us. Thank you.
Excuse me. Go, Bryant.
Thank you. I'm Bill Bryant with the Arkansas State Police. I just want to echo some of the remarks. We're very fortunate to have a great team here with A.J. Gary and General Berry and our boss, Governor Hutchinson. Phone's always available. Talk to him, get input. But yesterday I spent a lot of time coordinating with our sheriff's departments and police departments around the state there, especially on the river, and met with some county judges and with some mayors. And it's just a great team effort. State police has offered all their assets to assist local law enforcement, whether it be answering calls, hauling prisoners, or traffic control points, whatever we can do to help law enforcement. But I was out in Fort Smith yesterday. If you haven't been there, I urge you to go. It'll take your breath away. But again, we're very fortunate to have a great team here, and we look forward to work through this. And we do have a great team, and it's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, I did want to recognize Jamie Cook, the Secretary-Designate of the Department of Public Safety, who will be engaged in this come July 1. And then, Lori, did you have anything from the Department of Transportation?
Just one thing. I would just encourage all of the motorists out there in Arkansas to check idrivearkansas.com. It shows all the latest road closings, and so you can plan your trip and hopefully be safe to wherever you're going, whatever your destination is. So thank you.
Any questions?
Governor, any concern, again, obviously there's a lot of unknowns, but there have been levees that are already topped. I mean, this is historic flooding. Thoughts toward the future of how to mitigate this, and, you know,
Yes. Whenever I'm asked about what type of federal assistance is needed, obviously there's going to be individual homes and businesses that are impacted. That's something that I hope that there can be some federal assistance to, which is limited for individual homeowners and businesses. But that's one aspect of recovery. The other aspect is mitigation, and that's where we need federal investment. Whenever you look at a Corps of Engineers project that, thank goodness for the levees, but does the Corps need to evaluate, in light of this flood and the management of the river, whether the levees need to be strengthened, at what points, and do they need to be elevated? And so I think there's a lot to learn over time, and mitigation for the future and future flood events will be an important part of it. I'll just mention that after we had the 16 flood, 2016, in Perry County, we did invest money in rebuilding and strengthening a levee. And I just came from visiting with the Perry County judge, and he says that levee's working perfectly. Perfectly under the circumstances, I should say. So that investment does make a difference. And so that's something that we will look at long term. For the immediate purpose, the levees look good by and large, but you worry about the length that water will be pressing against them, and whether that will diminish. While they might look good now, what will that look like a week from now?
Do you have any idea on how much federal aid you're going to be requesting?
No, not at this time. The request that we have right now is for emergency federal assistance, which comes from the federal agencies. Obviously, FEMA is here, but there's other agencies that can offer support to us. And as the need arises, we want to be able to call those federal agencies based upon this presidential request and future declaration that they will be able to provide that immediate assistance. Secondly, whenever you look at what kind of assistance is available for a flood like this, we will just be beginning the damage assessment. We have a head start because of the work of the Civil Air Patrol and their modeling, but that's going to take some time to get those estimates in and to formalize that request.
So you mentioned you're going around with the delegation tomorrow. You going with everybody?
No, not everybody can make it. It'll be, I know that Senator Bozeman, I understand, will be there. Congressman French Hill, Congressman Womack, and Congressman Westerman, I believe, are all part of various parts of that tour.
Governor, we know that the river in Fort Smith has crossed already today, and I know you mentioned you're heading there tomorrow. What are your concerns about being there, being in a place that's flooded that you spent so much time in?
Well, whenever you look at what I saw today, you're looking at already 100 homes being evacuated. And then you're looking at the river rising 2 or 3 feet more over the coming days. And you're trying to visualize, will this be over the levee? And in some places it's already invaded the homes and required the evacuations. And then you're trying to anticipate where that backwater is going to go. And it was surprising to me, rivers and bayous and creeks that flow into the Arkansas River are now flowing the opposite direction. And so where is that water going to go? If it's not going to go in the river, it's backing up and it's flooding inland. And so that is the unknown. And I know that the Corps of Engineers has been very helpful in those modeling and helping to see it, but nobody's done this before and nobody's experienced this before. So that's what you worry about, are what other homes, what other neighborhoods, what other businesses will be impacted.
Governor, what kind of conversations have you had with the governor of Oklahoma about the way this has unfolded and with the water starting there and coming there?
Well, my communication's primarily been with the Tulsa District of the Corps of Engineers. And so we're trying to understand, first of all, I was asking a lot of questions as to why is this happening. And of course it was explained to me the containment areas in Oklahoma are at overcapacity. They had no choice but to release it. There's only one place for that to go, and that is down the Arkansas River. I expect to have more conversations with Oklahoma as time goes on, the governor particularly, but we've also have a mutual assistance agreement with Oklahoma, and we have looked at ways that we can resource and support each other.
How long do you anticipate the National Guard being deployed, especially in Fort Smith with the crest already being reached?
I actually expect the deployments to continue. They'll just be in different ways. We initially started with rescue teams that are deployed, 2 of the teams. I expect that over time the requests will come in for different types of deployment. And so that's something we'll monitor. General Barry, did you want to comment on that?
Yes, sir, if I may. And the National Guards, the soldiers and airmen, as the water progresses down the Arkansas River, we anticipate that those soldiers and airmen will progress with the water to help the citizens of those respective communities. But like the governor says, this water is going to be around for a long time. It may potentially be here for a couple of weeks. So then we start getting into the recovery phase of this flood. So I'm sure some of the soldiers and airmen will be needed in that respect based on whatever Director Gary decides to do and funnels that up to the governor, and then we'll be able to respond.
How many people in total from National Guard are being deployed?
Rough numbers because it changes every day. We have some aviation crews like that'll come on tomorrow to start laying sandbags in Crawford County on some levees, and again in Perry County. We have our two high water rescue teams that accounts for about 26 of those. So probably roughly in the neighborhood of 60 at the most that we have right now. But like I say, that fluctuates day to day based on the needs of the state.
Mr. Gary, you said
Yes.
that this was maybe I misunderstood you. You said something about the emergency lead folks. This was the first time you had all the people in the building or in your emergency operations centers. How many
Right.
people are you talking about?
Well, we have 16 emergency support functions, and what that basically is we have state agency leads that will help coordinate stuff. Like example, the National Guard, they're one of the ESFs, so they're in there with us. The state police is the lead over public safety. Transportation's over ESF 1, which is the transportation. So the important thing is they're all in the room with us. So as needs arrive, we can go quickly to that person and get those resources coordinated and on the ground quicker by having them in the room with us.
Quick question for the governor. You've talked a lot about the official work that's being done, but from a volunteer basis, do you have a comment on seeing what's being done here in the state?
It's extraordinary. As I call county judges, they're out of breath because they're loading sandbags. I call a friend because I know their house is in an area that is expected to be flooded, and they've been out helping neighbors move furniture and to evacuate the houses. So it's extraordinary the spirit of Arkansans and how they come together, and they set aside the other routines of life to help their neighbors, help their friends, help the community. Whether it's moving furniture or filling sandbags, there's a great spirit and willingness to help. And the question about the National Guard, the National Guard is not having to fill sandbags. We have neighbors filling sandbags, and we do have some prisoners that are doing it as well, but it's the neighbors that are taking on that load. And so that frees up the National Guard to do work that is supportive, such as flying assets and doing things that volunteers can't do. So they're making an extraordinary difference in Arkansas, and it's great to see them come together.
Governor, I had heard of some reports in Oklahoma of people looting homes. Have you heard of anything of that nature going on here in Arkansas?
No, and I expect the people of Arkansas to behave well. But obviously, if there is any indications of that or concern about it, there will be a National Guard that will be deployed. But it's something that you keep an eye on because you're having homes that are vacated under emergency situations. But I expect the people of Arkansas to do the right thing, obviously, and help neighbors and not to take advantage of very difficult circumstances. But if necessary, the National Guard will be available to protect that. And I know that in previous flooding circumstances, the National Guard has been utilized for monitoring of communities. It's traffic flow, but it's also making sure that there's a good enforcement team there to make sure that the law is followed.
Governor, will there be any penalties for people who go past barricades? Or I know there's a lot of caution tape set up around Riverfront Park in Fort Smith, and a lot of people are going to look at this. Any penalties for those people who cross those lines?
Yes, we've had some reports.
Penalty guy, right?
I'm really a nice guy. We've had some citations issued by sheriff's departments and police departments for people who pass those barricades, and they will be issued a citation. But again, as Director Gary and others have talked, is when you get those barricades, turn around, you don't drown, because you no telling how deep that water is once you pass those barricades.
And you mentioned you were in Fort Smith yesterday. Can you kind of talk about what you saw and why it really resonated with you?
I think the first is when you're coming down Garrison Avenue, you look to the left, right in the middle of downtown, and you had just everyday Arkansans shoveling sand into bags. You had all types, diversity, white, black, Hispanic, male, female, young and old, and they're out there with shovels putting sand in sandbags to help their fellow Arkansans. That struck me first, and then when you get to the Garrison Street Bridge and you look down the Arkansas River, and you've got the Fort Smith Center there. The light pole is 20 foot tall, and only like 2 foot is sticking out. So it's definitely there. In Dardanelle, again, we were in Dardanelle yesterday and looked at a basketball court, and the only thing you could see was the top of the backboard. So those kind of things you're not used to seeing in Arkansas. But again, the everyday Arkansan, they're helping each other, and it's just great to see.
All right, with that, thank you very much. I want to thank the team here and the extraordinary partnerships and what you're doing for the citizens of Arkansas. With that, I'm going to go back down to the emergency command center and get some more personal briefings from the different groups that are represented there, and to thank them again. Thank you very much. Okay? Yep. Down there. I didn't introduce you appropriately. Oh, okay. So and you're
We probably would have seen you.
No, that's fine. I took 30 minutes ago. So.